show you don't want to miss.
Thanks, Joanne.
It's Google time.
Hello, Widener University. This is Nick Zaffiri and my co-host Mike Inglese here today, bringing you Screened Inside the Studio, a movie review show where we'll probably cover around 3 movies a show, and we're going to talk about them. And we're going to get things started with a personal favorite of Mike's, a movie called Donnie Darko.
Why do you make me flood the school?
They are in great danger.
Kitty, you even know who Graham Greene is?
I think we have all seen Bonanza.
Well, while we are on other topics,
Where did you come from?
Do you believe in time travel?
Who are you talking to?
So, Mike, why don't you give us a little information on this movie?
Well, Donnie Darko, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated movies I've ever seen. It's a fantastic piece of work. If you have not seen it, I definitely recommend it. It's going to take a second viewing to fully understand it, maybe even a third or fourth. I recommend the movie to anybody who likes independent movies. It's great for that. And the one thing I was thinking about is a central theme. What would you decide?
I think it's really hard to pick out a central theme because it does throw you through a lot of curveballs. Mm-hmm. It really likes to make you think, and it's one of those introspective movies because it does focus so heavily on the aspect of time travel, and it throws you through a lot. I really can't put my finger on a theme yet because I've only seen it 2 times, so give me 2 more and I'll probably find something out.
Yeah, I've seen it a good 5 times maybe. So when the movie ends, it's the kind of thing where you're like, what the heck just happened? And I'd say look it up if you do not know, but I think it's fantastic acting, everything about it. Jake Gyllenhaal's one of his first movies, and it was definitely a tremendous start for his career.
Now, there were many complex aspects of this movie. Did you have any in particular that you picked out that's like stuck out to you in a way?
Well, I think the score perfectly fits the movie. And Michael Andrews, the composer, is great at what he does.
I think it's pretty I can't put into words how much I really enjoyed watching this movie. It did strike a chord because it comes at a time where Generation X was a big thing, where you have a lot of kids who are growing up and dealing with mental issues, and it gives a lot for a viewer to connect with. And it's really hard to really put into words how good this movie is.
There's so much about the movie. I mean, they have normal high school drama with growing up in high school. I mean, the main character, Jake Gyllenhaal's character, has a sort of a mental illness, but we find out it's more than that by the end of the movie. And there's just a lot to it, and it's definitely something you need to watch.
We are going to be talking about Guardians of the Galaxy.
What percentage?
I don't know, 12%.
12%?
That's a fake laugh.
It's real!
Totally fake.
That is the most real, authentic, hysterical laugh of my entire life because that is not a plan.
It's barely a concept.
You're taking their side?
I am Groot.
So what? It's better than 11%. What the hell does that have to do with anything?
Thank you, Groot. Thank you. See? Groot's the only one of you who has a clue.
So, Guardians of the Galaxy for me was the first superhero movie I got to see in a long time in theaters, and it turned out a lot better than I thought it was going to be. What did you think about this movie?
I hate to say it, I find the movie overrated. I am a big superhero fan. I'm not like the biggest Marvel fan though, that's the thing. There was a lot of hype surrounding it. Maybe I went in with too much or too high of expectations, and I don't know. I didn't really like it as much as I feel like I should have.
And that's fine.
It was definitely well made, well put together, great acting, but.
Personally, when I saw it late at night, but I wasn't like in that state of mind where I was like open for anything in the world. But I saw it and it threw me through like a roller coaster of emotions, maybe a little too drastic sometimes, but I think for the most part it worked. The comedy was funny. Also seeing Dave Bautista being funny was weird but good, because he's acted before and he's sort of straying away from wrestling and he's going more into acting, kind of like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has. But I thought it was a pretty good movie. I thought it was well acted. The script was a little weird because the dialogue is finicky at times. It seems unnatural. But are you a big superhero movie fan in general?
I'm a big Batman fan, but that's a lot different than your typical superhero, you know. It's not like Marvel, where they have, like, I'm an Avengers fan, but I'm not the biggest. Like, I'm not, like, real excited to go see it when it comes out.
Fair enough. I would say, would you compare this to any other superhero movie, and how would this one compare to others?
You can't compare this movie to any other superhero movie. It's so different, and it's more of a comedy, I feel like, than maybe any other superhero movie. So
I would say, would you call instead of a superhero movie, would you call this a sci-fi comedy, something like a Spaceballs almost?
Yes, but isn't Spaceballs more of a parody?
Yeah,
I wouldn't exactly call this movie a parody.
I'd say maybe something a little similar to it then.
Yeah, I mean, it made fun of itself in a way. It didn't take itself too seriously, even though it could have, considering how great the special effects were. It did have a good storyline, but just in my opinion, it was slightly, maybe I just had too high expectations for it. But it's not something I really plan on watching again because...
That's fair enough.
I don't care to see.
As a personal question, do you have a favorite superhero movie?
Batman Begins.
Is any particular reason for that?
I think it's one of the forgotten ones out of the Dark Knight trilogy, and I think Scarecrow is a cool villain, and I just like the origin story of Batman. I think they did it the best with that movie.
All right. So, as we transition out of that movie, we're going to head to our final one, a more recent film. We're going to be watching American Sniper, or talking about American Sniper.
Would you be surprised if I told you that the Navy has credited you with over 160 kills? Do you ever think that you might have seen things or done some things over there that you wish you hadn't?
Oh, that's not me, no.
What's not you?
I was just protecting my guys. They were trying to kill our soldiers, and I'm willing to meet my creator and answer for every shot that I took. The thing that haunts me are all the guys that I couldn't save.
The hype surrounding this movie was
huge.
It blew the box office out of the water, if that's what you say. When I saw it, I did have very high expectations, but I kind of knew what to expect, considering, you know, it's a true story. I kind of knew what would finally end up happening. What were your expectations for this film?
Personally, I didn't expect this to be the next Saving Private Ryan, because it's incredibly hard to compare a movie like that because it's so monumentally great and groundbreaking in the film industry. But I saw a lot of controversy come in about Islamophobia referring to this movie, but I think that's only because of the audience response. After seeing this movie, I didn't really think that it had an Islamophobic feel, but it was really weak in some areas, personally.
So now, despite that, and you were comparing it to a previous movie, Saving Private Ryan, which I think is one of the best movies ever, what let you down about American Sniper besides just maybe not meeting all the expectations, or?
I think personally the characters were fairly weak. The only fully developed character was Bradley Cooper. They did a really good job at fleshing him out, but there were a few scenes where they went into depth about mental illness involving post-traumatic stress disorder, but they never went deep enough. It only skimmed the surface, as well as addressing issues about the Iraq War. And I think it kind of faltered in a way, because you left a lot of open space for something that probably could have been the next great war film.
See, the thing that let me down about it not being the greatest war film was the fact that the action scenes were not the most thought out original scenes. I know the movie is more about, you know, his family and his life and post-traumatic stress disorder, But I feel like they didn't really do anything new with the action sequences and war other than we've seen before in movies such as Black Hawk Down and even Lone Survivor. I hate to compare it to that.
Yeah.
Because they're such different movies.
I think one of the things I really didn't like the most was probably right about around the middle of the movie. It started repeating the process a little bit, and it dragged on a little bit. I had to force myself to finish this movie, and that's not a good feeling at all.
So it felt like a chore for you to get through?
A little bit, yes.
That's not good, yeah. So what could they improve on?
I think they could have improved on the characters. Every time you got to meet a character early on in the film, it felt like they're going to die at some point. Every time you get a shot of a character that was there for more than maybe 3 seconds, you kind of felt that they were going to die at some point. And even though that can be kind of obvious in a war film, you don't want that because you at least want some. I think a war movie's best tool is tension. So if you don't have tension in your movie for a war film, then you have no reason to stay focused on it.
And give us a reason to care if these soldiers die. I mean, what reason do we have besides he's an American soldier fighting the war?
I also think the ending could have been a lot better because I'm not going to, if you've read the book or you know the story about Chris Kyle, he does end up getting killed, not in war, but by another fellow former veteran. They could have gone into detail about his wife and how his wife had to deal with him gone but while he was on tour and his death, and also dealing with their kids. I thought that could have been at least a little more interesting because you get to see how they live, but I guess the focus was supposed to be more on Kyle than anything else.
And it was more just how tragic this story was, the fact that, when he came home from the war and he decided to stay home, he made peace with his wife, he showed his children that'll be there for him, and then it just kind of ended just like that with him going off to teach this veteran. You work with this veteran and then he ends up killing him, taking his car. I mean, it definitely hit you there because it'll stick with you the way they show his family right before that final scene.
Right. I think if I could complain about one more thing before we start to go off, the very end where he does get to address his family, and I thought that was really nice, and then the wife gave a funny vibe about what was happening. She was really frantic, and she didn't know what was going on. And then they cut. It's just he goes off, and then it cuts to text. He's like, Chris Kyle then died. I'm like, wow, that was really cool. Like, thanks for that small bit of nothing movie. I really appreciate it.
Seeing it in the theaters, I think it worked just because the credits were silent, and you could really tell the audience kind of felt emotionally attached to that ending. I mean, it was completely silent. It gave you an eerie feeling when you were walking out of the theaters. And the movie worked for me, in my opinion, for definitely getting you emotionally invested into the film. Was it the greatest war film? No, but
not even close.
It was a good retelling of the Chris Kyle story that deserved to have a movie made out of it.
But it was all right. It could have been better, but it wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen, as a lot of people tend to say. So
I definitely recommend it.
I'd say see it if you haven't, but it doesn't matter.
So that seems to wrap up our show for this week. Any final comments?
I hope everybody's enjoyed. I would like to take a quick shout out to the people that kind of inspired this idea. Matt Sloan and Craig Johnson of Welcome to the Basement Show on YouTube, very influential people for bringing this idea to life for me. And I'm glad everyone who would be or will be watching this for their viewing. And if anybody has any suggestions on show or movies we could watch, feel free to send them in. We're very open to suggestions.
And we'll definitely try to change up the format next week, discuss anything. If you have anything you want to discuss specifically about a movie, let us know, and we'll get it going.
Yeah, so I hope everybody's enjoyed. This is Nick Zaffiri.
And Mike Inglese.
And we'll see you next week.